Alright, so let's dive into our color exercise. So exercise 5. And right now we're going to be looking at the stroke panel. There's a lot of cool things we can do from this panel. And so far I've gone over just coming up to the control panel here and choosing a stroke color, and then we can also change the stroke weight over here. We can either do that just by hitting the up and down arrows. We can select these preset stroke weights. There's some other things in here that I want to go over, but I'd rather do it through the actual stroke panel. So let's go ahead and open that up. So we can just come over here and find this icon for the stroke panel, or you can go to Window and find Stroke. So I'll go ahead and open that up. By default, if you're using Essentials, Illustrator likes to do this really kind of nonsensical thing. It actually just gives you a very limited choice of what you can do upon opening the stroke panel for the first time. So what you have to do is click on this options icon and go to show options, and then you'll see we have a lot more that we can work with now. I'm going to go ahead and pull this tab off of the panel dock, and I will minimize those other panels. And let's go over the caps and corners option. So I'll zoom in just a little bit over here, and we're just going to go over three main types of caps and corners. So caps are basically the end of the stroke, so how it terminates, and the corner obviously is how it joins together at a corner. And right now, by default, we're using what's called a butt cap. Okay, no laughing. And the butt cap is just basically, it cuts off right at the end of the point. It's a straight line. And then we're also working with the default miter join. So this is just a straight cut off corner. Let's select this other one. Let's choose over here under caps. Let's choose this next one, which is called round caps, and I'll zoom in a little bit more. And you can see when we round out the caps, it actually takes the end of the point and gives it kind of a radius at the end. We do the same thing to the corner, so if we do round join for that corner, there you can see it's rounding off that corner. This has actually become a really popular style for icons and all types of graphic looking illustrations using this style, the round caps and the round joins. Alright, let's try this other one over here. So let's try project cap. So there you can see it's actually moving the cap beyond the point, but it's still truncating it just like the butt cap. And then let's try the bevel joint, and there you can see it just bevels off that corner. Just keep note of this. We'll be using more of these options in the near future. Alright, let's come down over here to align stroke. We're going to see what this means. So if we click on this, we can see that the stroke runs right along the midline of the path. Okay, so it's not on one side or the other. It's right down the center, and that's by default how all our strokes are made. But I can actually change that. If I come over to align stroke and I choose this next one over here, align to inside, okay, you can see it changed the side in which the stroke is being made. In this case, the inside of the stroke. Sometimes this is arbitrary. Your inside could be your outside depending on how your path looks. I'll go ahead and make that bigger. So I'm increasing the stroke weight. Oh, it's a little too much. And I'll change the color. I'll change this to orange red. And then with it selected, I'll do Command C, and then I need to paste in place, so Command Shift and V. And so now that I've pasted a copy right on top, I'm going to come over back to the stroke panel, and now I'm going to select Align Stroke to the outside. So now we have two strokes. One is being aligned to the inside, and one is being aligned to the outside. I'll go ahead and change the color on that one, and we'll be using that more in the future. Okay, so moving along, let's check out the arrowheads and tails. So these can be really nifty when you're doing instructional illustrations or graphics where you need to kind of punctuate certain things and lead the eye. Okay, so I'm going to select this first stroke, and then we're going to skip the dashed line. We're going to go over that soon, and come down over to this portion where it says arrowheads. And basically it's kind of arbitrary, but you choose for one side of your path an arrow, and there's a lot to choose from. I'll just go ahead and choose arrow number 5. And then on the other side, it could easily be an arrow again, okay? Or if you continue down this selection menu, you're going to find there's all kinds of tails or terminations for the arrow. So go ahead and just choose something that pleases you. There's even these novel graphic fingers pointing in a certain direction, set of scissors. That's kind of cool. I like that actually. I'll go ahead and go with something real simple. I'm gonna go with arrow 20. So now that I've done that, you know what? I don't like how big this tail is, so I'm actually going to decrease the scale. So right below where you have either chosen an arrow or a tail, okay, you can also come down here and then decrease the size. Okay, so I'm bringing this down. If I wanted to, I could actually click this icon over here, which is a link, and when I click that, when I increase the size of that tail or decrease it, the arrow goes along with it. So it kind of constrains the proportions. In this case, I don't want to do that, so I'll unclick that. I'll make that tail a little bit smaller. I'll come over here and make the head a little bit bigger. And then right over here, this allows me to swap the directions of whatever I just made. So if I decide that it's the wrong direction, I can just switch it. And then this last part over here, this will actually put your arrow on the end of the point instead of before the end of the point. So you can choose between keeping it between the points of the segment or extending it out beyond that. I'm going to go ahead and just keep it as in between those 2 points. Alright, I'll try one more over here. So I'll just select a different arrowhead and I'll select a tail and I'll switch directions. I think I will decrease the size of that head. It's not perfectly lined up with the template, don't worry. So I'll zoom out. Come down over here and look at the dashed strokes. So this is how you make dashed lines. This first one I think is really important. This is a really common dashed line when you're designing or making different designs. I find that this is a heavily used kind of dashed line. It's basically these rounded dots along a path. So we can make this. We got to come over to the stroke panel and check our dashed line, and you might be getting all kinds of weird numbers by default, but we can go ahead and change these. So basically the dash is the actual stroke, and then the gap is the part in between where there is no stroke. And Illustrator allows you to put in 3 different combinations of gaps and strokes, and we'll go over that. Let's go ahead and for this first dash, let's hit the 0 key. For the gap, let's try 8 points, and then let's actually just delete or put in a 0 for these other dashes and gaps. Okay, so when I did that, you can't really see anything. It's just these little tick marks. That's because we need to change the cap. Let's change it to a round cap, and there you can see it has morphed those small stroke dashes into dots. Pretty cool. Okay, let's try another combination. So I'm going to click on this one, and hopefully you guys have the correct template. This one is not correct. I'm going to come in here and click the dash line, and let's try a dash of 10. Let's try a gap of 10, and then let's try another dash of 20, and then a gap of 10, and see what we can come up with. And then I'm going to switch the cap to round. Alright, cool, I like that. So we can see we can actually do a combination of longer dash, gap, and then shorter dash, gap. Okay, let's try one more. Okay, so I'll click this line, and this time I will do a dash of 20, a gap of 10, and this time I'll do a dash of 50, and I like that right there. So just ignore what you're seeing right here on my screen. This is not correct. Hopefully it'll be correct on your template. Okay, let's see the other options for working with dashed lines and corners. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this one, this square, and then I will click the dashed lines. I just want you to toggle real quick between these 2 options up here. So this chooses how it aligns the dash stroke along a looped path. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a square, but a square is the best demonstration. So if we look at the corners, we can see that it's got kind of a weird way that it's choosing to move the dash line along this path. But if I click this other option here, it will actually align those dashes and strokes so that these corners are filled. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this practice target of concentric circles. So I'll go ahead and choose my ellipse tool or hit the L key, find the center, hold down Alt, hold down Shift, and I will drag a line or a circle. I'll go ahead and make my copy, so I'll do Command C and then Command Shift and V. Then I will hold down on the Shift and Alt key and make a copy of that. And then I'll do the same thing again. Command C, Command Shift V, and make a copy of that. Okay, so I'll start with this outer one. I'm going to bring down the stroke weight to about 1. And if I toggle on and off the drawing area, which is what we are drawing on, I'm just toggling the visibility. I'm looking at my template. Yeah, it looks like maybe a 30 dash. So I'll put in 30. And for the gap, I'll put in 10. And for these other ones, delete the number. I will try a dash of 20. And that looks about right. Yeah, we'll just keep it at 20 and 10. I'll actually round out those corners, or the caps rather. Let's try this one. So if I toggle off the drawing area, that's a dotted line. Make sure that's selected. 0 for the dash, and I'll try a gap of 15, or I will delete these other dashes and gaps. I will round out those corners, and maybe I'll do a gap of 10 so it gets a little bit tighter. There we go. And I'll bring down the stroke weight a little bit. And don't worry if it's not lined up perfectly with the template. Just get it approximate. Okay, so last one. Let's try a dash of 10 and a gap of 5, and let's just delete these other ones and increase the size. That looks about right, about 10 or 11 points, and we're done. All right, so the last thing I want to show you guys involves changing the shape of the actual stroke as it runs across the path. So this is a really cool option that gives a nice hand-drawn look to your designs or your artwork that you make in Illustrator. I will go over more extensively working with brushes, which is an extension of the stroke profiles. So I'm going to go ahead and just select one of these paths, and then all the way down in the stroke panel, you can also find this right over here in the control panel as you're working. Okay, you'll see profile. This is a list of different profiles that come standard with Adobe Illustrator. I'll just go ahead and do this first one. It says width profile 1. So you can see that's a pretty nice tapered stroke profile. I'll try this other one. So this one tapers it, but it also tapers it in the center. We'll try this next one with profile 3. So this one tapers it, but it tapers it a little bit shorter than the first one. So it allows for most of the segment to remain as a regular stroke. And I'll try with profile 4. I personally like with profile 4 because these are lines that you find in like printmaking or any kind of inking in comic books. It's basically a thick to a taper, so these come in handy when you're trying to shade or create the illusion of shading. I'll just go ahead and try these other ones. I'll try, I don't know if you guys have some of my custom ones loaded, but I'll just try this last one with profile 6. So this is tapering, but it actually aligned the stroke to that other side. Okay, so let's kind of put this into practice. So we want to make, possibly be a logo, but we want to give more life to it. We want to make it kind of look like this bottom one over here. So I'm just going to start selecting strokes and putting a different profile on it and just seeing the results. So I'll try the outside, left outside edge, and I'm gonna go with width profile 3. I like that. I'll try the mouth, and let's see what width profile 2 looks like. Let's go ahead. We can actually switch the direction of that profile. Let's see how that looks. Oh, I kind of like that. Alright, I'm going to try this nostril on the Cobra. I'll try with profile 6. And then not only can we flip it along the whole line of the path, we can also flip it on the axis. So right here, it gives me the option. I can flip that to the other side. So yeah, I like that. Try this one for the eye. Cool. I'll try with profile 1 for the top of that eye. Pretty good. And for the bottom part of the jaw, let's see how that one looks. Yeah, I kind of like that. I might even increase the stroke weight on that too. Alright, let's see this left edge of the Cobra. I want to try this taper, but it's the wrong direction, so I need to switch the direction, and I'll even increase the stroke size just a little bit more. It's looking a lot better. Okay, I'll try this tongue. I'm going to try the width profile 6. I like that one. So I'm going to stick with width profile 4 on that one. And I'm going to round out the cap because I noticed that when I don't have a rounded cap, you can kind of see that weird junction. So one thing the rounded caps do is they kind of soften those junctions. And I'll go ahead and change the other side of that tongue. I'll try this one and flip it, and I'll decrease the size. Ooh, I like that. Okay, moving along. Let's try this right end. Okay. That's looking good for now because I know these are going to change. I'm going to go ahead and select a whole bunch of these as a batch. I'm holding down the shift key and selecting. I'll select about up to here, and then I will try that width profile 4, the one I was talking about that gives it that shaded illusion. And yeah, I like that. I even decrease the stroke weight just a little bit. Hey, and these last ones, I'll try this funky one here with profile 2 and decrease the stroke weight on it. Kind of like that. And then on these last two, I'll go back to with profile 4. Oh, can't forget this inner part. I'll try the funky with profile 2 again, and I'll flip it, and I kind of like that. Alright, so that's your introduction to working with strokes. We'll be using a lot more of these options for our designs in the near future.